Money on my mind, looking for a dime. James Locke in the house, gonna help you shine.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Poole Locke YouTube channel. I'm James Locke. Today we're going to answer two more Ask James questions of the day. First question is from Gary. He says, I'm within about 3 years of retirement, but my financial advisor says we don't need to make any changes to my portfolio. I'm a little worried about this strategy. Gary, I can tell instantaneously you're a smart man. You should be just a bit worried because, again, if you're 3 years out, your advisor is saying that there are not significant changes that have to be made. My best guess, Gary, is that your advisor is using something called a withdrawal strategy to try and engineer income. And in today's market environment, that approach deserves extra scrutiny. What do I mean by that? Well, there's an equation, Gary, that's existed in the financial services world forever. And again, in the 50s, the 60s, and certainly most of the 70s, most financial advisors adhere to this. And it's the equation of total return. Total return equals income plus growth. Or as I like to say, TR equals I plus G. The income comes from interest or dividends, things that can get paid out to you in retirement, or if you're not retired, you could choose to reinvest and buy more shares. Of course, growth is essentially capital appreciation, where you buy something at one price and appreciates in value to another price. Well, Gary, early on in your early years, right, when you're working and accumulating money, you want total return. You want to make money on your money. You don't care whether it comes from the I or the G, right? You don't care if it comes from income or growth. You just want your account to go up every year, and it can go up through reinvested income as it can from growth. But now that you're getting close to retirement, all of a sudden, it's a whole different deal. Why? Because you can't spend growth, right? Make no bones about it. You cannot spend growth in retirement. The only way to spend growth is to sell shares and cross your fingers and toes and hope that it grows back. And my suspicion, Gary, is that your advisor has that mindset. He's going to try and engineer income for you by selling shares every year, spending your principal, and hope that he does a good enough job that it grows back. This approach, often called a systematic withdrawal strategy, can be particularly risky in volatile markets or during extended market downturns. I'm here to tell you, Gary, that hope is not a financial strategy. In fact, what you really need to be looking at are investments that can provide reliable income streams. Things like quality dividend-paying stocks, certain types of bonds, and perhaps even some alternative investments. These can help create a more dependable retirement income that isn't at the mercy of market fluctuations. So, if he's not recommending any major shifts to focus on an income first, growth second approach, focusing on the I first with the G second, then it might be time to shop around. At least interview other advisors who specialize in retirement income strategies. Remember, your retirement years require a fundamentally different approach than your accumulation years. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking you need to be doing at this stage of your financial journey. Thanks for your awesome question. If you'd like to send in your question, you can do so. You can email them to poolelock@poolelock.com. Let's get to our second question today. Now, this is from Thomas. Thomas says, hey, I'm retired, but my financial advisor is relying on spending one bucket of money first, then another bucket of money later. Is this a good strategy? This concept of engineering income through withdrawals and hoping that it grows back takes many different flavors. And in today's complex market environment, it's crucial to understand exactly what strategy your advisor is implementing and why. So for some advisors, it's simply, having you in a traditional, we call it 60-40 portfolio, where you're 60% stocks, 40% bonds or bond funds, and you just take systematic withdrawals, and that's backed up with some sort of mathematics called Monte Carlo analysis, which basically says that, hey, 95% of the time, you're not going to run out of money, providing that you stay within certain limits of how much you can withdraw. The problem with that, though, is that it means that 5 or 10% of the time, you might just run out of money. And in retirement, even a small chance of running out of money is a risk that deserves serious consideration. So what your advisor has done is your advisor has done maybe a slightly better, different approach of the withdrawal method. What it sounds like he or she has done is this buckets of money approach, where they take 3, 4 different buckets over the course of your lifetime, and you spend down one bucket, and then the next bucket, and then you go to the third bucket, maybe even you go to a fourth bucket, right? And the idea is the longer term buckets have more risk or more volatility. Shorter term buckets are more conservative. But please, don't kid yourself, Tom. No matter what, what's happening here is they're hoping that those later buckets grow enough to replace what you've spent down in the earlier buckets. So if right now, let's say you're on bucket number 1, the hope is that buckets number 2 and 3 will have enough gain or capital appreciation to make up for what you're spending down in bucket 1. This strategy, while it might sound logical, still leaves you vulnerable to market timing risks and sequence of return risk, especially if you hit a significant market downturn early in your retirement. So again, it's slightly more sophisticated, maybe a slightly sexier withdrawal strategy, but it's still a withdrawal strategy. And like we say, each time on this show, the reality is the only way that you can securely get income from your portfolio is if your advisor generates enough interest and dividends, enough income. Like that rental income analogy I always talk about, enough interest and dividends after any fee that your advisor charges to satisfy your income needs. This means focusing on investments that are specifically designed to generate reliable income streams, things like dividend-paying stocks with long histories of stable or increasing payments, high-quality bonds, potentially even some alternative income investments. Why is that the only secure way? It's simple. Because think about it. If you're not touching principal, then let me ask you, can you ever really run out if you're never taking the principal in the first place? When you're living off the income your investments generate, rather than selling pieces of your principal, you're creating a much more sustainable retirement strategy that isn't dependent on market timing or hoping for growth in those later buckets. So Thomas, consider having a detailed discussion with your advisor about shifting toward an income-focused strategy rather than relying solely on the bucket approach. Thanks for the awesome questions. And as always, if you'd like to send in your questions, you can do so by emailing them to poollocke@poollocke.com. If you like what you heard today, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. I'm James Locke, your retirement income source. See you next time.
Money on my mind, looking for a dime. James Locke in the house, gonna help you shine. Retirement is near, don't you live in fear. Listen up, my friend, let me make it clear. Savings in the bank.